So the DualSense Edge has been out now for a little while, and Spencer, you've been lucky enough to get hold of this controller. You've had it for about a month now, and so I think it's always good to share your thoughts, your impressions, your review really on the handset, and if it's worth actually putting the money down and buying it. So Spence, lay it on us.
Yeah, so I've had this controller for about a month now, maybe a bit over, but I do need to preface, I got it for £180. So a bit cheaper than usual. I think it retails at 210, but I might be mistaken. And I more or less exclusively use it for Call of Duty. It is the only game I actually play. I always switch back to my regular DualSenses because I'm always a bit scared of it being worn or damaged, which really is it's the controller you want to wear because it's modular. So it probably is something I should be using more, but I'm mainly using it for Call of Duty. But in terms of a review, initially, the case it comes in, it's a hard plastic case, which is the same material as the controller itself. It is lovely. Feels really nice.
Just to interrupt you, we're going to show the case. We're
Go on,
going to
mate.
demo it live on screen. So I'm going to be doing some shots of this, and I'll put that in post. But that's the case it comes in. So you've got the nice logo on the front of the case, and as Spencer said, that's the same material as the outside of the handset. Lovely.
It's
Lovely.
lovely.
It feels quality already.
Is quality, and another little feature just of the case itself, it's got a little Velcro flap, which a bit of a nightmare to open, but then you can charge the controller while it's protected in its little home.
You got that easy access, exactly where you want it, don't you? That back door.
Backdoor access.
That back
Backdoor
door
That's
access.
where you were going to go with this.
Yeah, just bring it
Back door.
down just a little bit, you know. But yeah, you got that back door that you can just chuck it straight in and start juicing from there.
Juicing. Outrageous. And then obviously within the case, you have the controller itself, which Phil, if you would like to show whilst I speak.
Here we go. I'll be your Debbie McGee to your Paul Daniels. I'll be the showgirl here. Here we go. Look at this.
Look at
Jeez. I don't know if the camera's going to refocus to this, but I'll get some better shots afterwards, as I said.
So the features it comes with, really, it's nice and secure in that case. You know it's not going to move about. It's proper locked in. But the main things you have, you get a braided cable. Comes with it, lovely. You get a little switch kind of thing, which is just this little plastic thing, which you can put the cable inside and then attach this to the controller and it will lock into the controller. So you know that cable is not slipping out no matter what. Very nice. Never used it. Probably never will. But it's nice that it's there in case I ever do. Imagine I'd be good for fighting game tournaments and such if you're a pad player. Also comes with spare thumbsticks, which aren't actually the same thumbsticks. Yeah, on the front, mate, analog sticks.
Thumbs. That was the giveaway there.
Yeah, it was. Spare thumbsticks, but they're actually PlayStation 3 thumbsticks. So instead of being that kind of concave shape that normal ones have, they're actually just rounded. Same as the PS3. It's a bit strange, but they actually do feel really nice. And I feel like they feel like they're made more rubbery. So they have a bit more grip on your thumb. But I might be chatting out my arse with that, but who knows? That's my opinion of it. It's my review. You get 4 of those for some reason. I thought they'd give you an extra set of the regular ones, but they just don't. You get 4 PS3 analogs, but they are nice. They are nice. You also get the main feature of the DualSense Edge. You get the back paddles. There you go. The back paddles, which you get those 2 little nubs. You get the pop-in, which I think are the best option. They are lovely and it's very satisfying to click, and they just magnetically attach. So all you got to do is just give it a little pull, come straight out, pop it straight back in, it attaches. But if you don't like the little nubs, then you also have the paddles. And the paddles, Davey, you said you liked the paddles, right?
Yeah, so with the paddles themselves, I find that the grip that you can have on the controller then at that point, you are able to have your fingers across both the L1 and R1, R2 and L2, and just have your kind of index fingers, your kind of wedding fingers, on those paddles, and it just feels really ergonomic. It feels great on the hands, and I'm thinking for games like COD or for like a racing game like GT or even for fighting games, you've just got that extra option that you've got all the buttons covered in that one grip, whereas with the little tabby little ones that you've got on there at the moment, the little kind of like nipple ones, I don't know how else to describe it.
The little nips.
The little nips. They feel lovely and they're great for if you just want to press something, but I didn't feel that I felt like it was kind of replacing other buttons for me, that I'd use those instead of using like the L1, R1. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the way I was holding it. It's holding it weird.
Okay.
Now, have you found that since having this, obviously the big selling point is the extra buttons, and you get the profiles that you can switch to at any time you want to depending on the game that you want to play. Is it 3 different options for profile save, or is it even more than that? 4, is it? Wow, that's really good. Now, have you found since having those extra buttons that your performance in, say, Call of Duty, for example, has been able to improve as a result of having extra ways to be able to play? So, for example, in COD, you're looking at like more jump shots or jumping around corners or being able to immediately dive in the middle of a gunfight. Those kind of options. Has that had an improvement to the way that you play Call of Duty? And was that a learning experience?
I will say, initially, I felt the controller felt really unnatural. Because there was something I've never felt, is those back buttons, and it kind of altered the way I was even holding the controller. None of it felt natural. And I thought, oh, I'm not sure if I actually like it. And I thought, fuck, what a waste of £200. But as I got to use the controller a bit more, I stuck with it. It slowly became more and more natural. I'm not sure if it actually does give an advantage in Call of Duty. I wouldn't say it does. The main advantage is just that your thumb never leaves the analog stick. That is the big thing. So if you're, say, mantling a wall in Call of Duty, to mantle you have to press X. So in that period of time, it's only short, but in that little bit of time, you're not able to aim at someone if they appear. Whereas me, I can press my back paddle and I can still aim. That's mostly just a big advantage. I'm not using it to do crazy jumps around corners. I have a few times and it does work. It's really nice. I should do it more.
£200 nice?
For me, yes. But I don't know about other people. But I wouldn't say it inherently gives an advantage. I think it's something that if you learn to use optimally and you kind of set the perfect profile, because my profile at the moment is the back left paddle is for jump, the back right paddle is for crouch. So I'm just able to mantle stuff or jump around corners, or I could dive like you said, or I could instantly go prone, which I'm yet to do, and I won't do it because it's scummy. Drop shot in little bitches. But I just won't do it. But I have the option. So if I need to do that to win a fight, I'll be able to do it, and it won't hinder my accuracy in the game. So that is kind of the big thing. It's also just a lot of quality of life features. So Phil, if you show them, on the bottom, where your thumb is at the moment, there's 2 function buttons. And those function buttons basically do 2 different things. So you have 4 profiles set. So you can hold either one down, then your profiles are set to triangle, square, X, and circle. You can change your profile on the fly. So I have my profile. It's called Call of Duty. You can name them whatever you want, set them. You can completely change your rebinds to whatever you want. So what would be X in, say, Final Fantasy, you can make it your triangle button if you want. Don't know why you would, but you can. Make it R2. Make it back paddle left. Whatever you want. But I've simply just got the default layout, and then the back paddles being jump and crouch. I haven't set up any more profiles because I don't really plan to use this controller for anything else. But the other beautiful thing is that if you hold function, the D-pad will actually act as kind of a volume mixer. So if you press up and down on the D-pad, you can change the volume of your overall audio. But if you're in a party with your friends, pressing left and right will actually change the mix between party chat and game chat. So you can hear the game louder if you need it. If there's a gunfight coming up, you know you're about to lose, or you know you need to be able to hear something, you can boost that volume on the fly. Or if your mate said something and you're like, what the fuck's he saying? You can turn him up. And that's just quite useful. I think it is very handy. It kind of negates the need. It has all the features on it that the Pulse headset has. So there's no reason for both. If you could buy a good headset that has 3D audio, it doesn't need to be a PS5 Pulse if you have this controller, because all the volume mixing controls you get on that headset are on this controller itself. This controller's jam-packed with just random stuff, and all of it is so useful and beneficial.
So Spence, I have the original DualSense controller here, as well as your new DualSense Edge here. And I'm looking at 2 handsets next to each other, and I can see, obviously we've mentioned about the additional buttons, but there is a certain level of quality with the DualSense Edge, isn't there? There's a different kind of touchpad on the top, and then of course kind of just the whole feel of it. It just feels more premium.
Yeah.
Now, when you rock up to your PlayStation and you're just going to be playing an average game, which one are you going for first? Are you going for the original, or are you going for the DualSense Edge?
I don't want to use it more than I need to. And that's kind of just my mindset. The way it works, I wasn't going to buy it because I thought, although I'm putting all this time in Call of Duty, it's not worth having a £200 controller for a single game. And then Street Fighter 6 came out, and I bought a £200 fight stick for that game. And I thought, well, I'm putting the same amount of time into Call of Duty, so why shouldn't I? And that was all it was, really. That just convinced me to make the purchase, and it's exclusively for COD for now. Maybe if we play other FPS games, or if we eventually get on Remnant 2, or something where it might actually benefit me in that game, it would see more use. But for now, it's exclusively for that. But that being said, it's still not a regret of a purchase, because it's akin to the Street Fighter fight stick I have, where, granted, I'm only using it for one game. I'm playing that game a fucking lot. It is getting its time put in, and I wouldn't say it's a regret at all at the moment.
Just to follow up on that one, does it work with all the other existing PlayStation accessories? Because I've got the charging dock for my original handsets, and you can put 2 handsets in. Could I put, if I was to purchase the £200 DualSense Edge, would that connection be exactly the same, do you know?
Yeah, exactly the same.
Exactly the same. Perfect.
So, Spence, I understand what you mean in terms of buying something for like a specific purpose. But for me, in looking at it now, getting my hands on it, actually feeling how it feels in hands, which is the most important thing and the biggest question I had going into potentially buying this controller. The thing for me that's the system seller on this is not so much the back pads, nothing like that. For me, it's the premium feel of the controller, how much better it does feel compared to a standard, and the audio mixing, which you've already mentioned. So I use a SteelSeries 7P Plus headset. It doesn't have that feature involved with it. Really comfy headset, lovely sound coming from it, but that's a feature that I've really missed that you've been able to have access to thanks to the Pulse headset. So for me, I'm constantly having to go in and adjust sound settings as I go, and it's annoying as hell because it breaks up the action. You've got to go into the menus, you've got to start going through stuff, and even as quick as they do make it now as part of being able to access that from the quick access menu, it's still a break from the gameplay. Whereas if I could just do that on the fly, depending on who joins the party, how loud their mic is, kind of everything, and just adjust things as I go, that is a reason to be able to purchase on its own, let alone the fact that I get extra functionality with games and a better premium feel. To me, it's no downside. The only difference being that you've got a controller that you've got a lot of physical differences in terms of the standard DualSense, in terms of you can buy like a Spider-Man one, you can buy a God of War one, you can buy a red, blue, whatever color you want, or you've got to go for the standard looking PlayStation Edge controller. That's the only difference between the two, is that you either go for something that looks great and customized to what you want it to look like in terms of the color palette, or you go for something that feels better and gives you more accessibility options and more ways to play and to be able to replace stuff out. For me, this would become, the Edge would become my day-to-day. Become my day-to-day, 100%.
I would agree.
And the standard ones, I would just get the different variants of that, depending on how I like the look of it. But it would be very much a case of that's more of a display item rather than a day-to-day. And this would 100% replace it. 100% for me. And it's got me feeling now and thinking, if I could find a good deal for this, this might be something that I might want to purchase, because I want to have that feel for every single game I play.
I 100% agree with you, Davey. You know, we're looking at this new DualSense Edge for the first time. This is the first time we've ever been sort of hands-on with it. And I have to admit, I'm jealous. I really am.
Yep.
It's something that, like you say, if there's a deal out there, I'm going to be wanting to put down that money, because I need to upgrade my handset. I can't have you having all those advantages when we play cards, and you being at the top of those leaderboards and me trickling along at the bottom, hopefully getting towards sort of the mid-table, and I'm like, well, it's the DualSense Edge that's giving him all those advantages. I'm going to be putting my money down, aren't I? I want those premium features, and I want that premium feel to the handset when I play. And I agree with you, Davey, 100% on everything you've said there. It would become my everyday handset. I wouldn't want to just save it for special. I don't like that idea where people buy expensive things, they put them on the shelf, and they leave them and they never get the use out of them. I think if I'm putting that money down, I'm using it every single day.
I see what both of you are saying. I do understand. You do have to be aware. One thing we haven't spoke about is the downsides of the DualSense Edge. One is quite a reduced battery life on the controller. So you'd kind of have to account for that. That's probably the main reason why I don't use it for my day-to-day. It's because people complain about the normal battery life on a DualSense anyway, but it's really good. You get the warning that it's going to run out of battery about 3 hours before it does. You're fine. DualSense Edge, I think, has about a 5 to 6 hour battery life, which is enough, obviously. Not for me.
You just have to have a backup, mate.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I think it's very good, but it is a niche. It's something that you kind of want to have rather than need. Like, as much as I'm using it exclusive for Call of Duty, it's not giving me an advantage in that game. I was the best anyway, you know? So, I mean, lately my game's been going off. But is it because of the DualSense Edge? Who knows? There's a case where lately in Call of Duty, I've actually been doing a lot better. Not to say I ever did bad. So I usually top the team, but lately I'm having like 50 bomb games. I am now comfortable with my DualSense Edge, so maybe it's a factor. But I'm not going to say it is.
Okay, Spence, we've got one more question for you before we round it out with the final question about, is it actually worth the money to be investing in this? And talking about money, this handset does come at a premium cost. And my question to you, Spencer, is, you mentioned that this handset is modular. You could change certain parts. What happens if I get stick drift? Am I then putting that handset in the bin?
That is the beauty of the DualSense Edge, my friend. That is the one big plus as to why this should be your day-to-day controller. Because if you do get stick drift, all you got to do, pop down to your local Argos. I think it's £18 or 20 quid, around that price. You can go buy a whole new stick, little analog stick, and all it does...
Is that each?
Each, yeah. Oof. Yeah. Oof. Yeah, but if you only have stick drift on your one analog, otherwise you'd have to buy a whole new pad anyway.
And generally it's going to be only the right one, generally, is where the drift seems to come in. You know, the left one, you normally only hold them forward, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It depends, mate, because I had stick drift on my GameCube handset once you threw it against the wall when you raged last time we were playing Smash Brothers. So if that happens, that's costing me 40 quid to replace those sticks. So watch it.
Do you have a rebuttal?
If anything, the fact that you can replace the sticks makes me more likely to throw it against the wall.
Yeah. I'm not buying one. Take it back. Take it back.
But no, I think how easy it is to be able to pop those off, and of course we got a live demonstration happening right now, which you're able to see. But the little modules that come with it is so elegantly designed in terms of the way that all does come apart, how it all gets to get put together. It's a fantastic little selling point there. And I have had, on my original PlayStation 5 controller, I have had stick drift and I had to replace a handset. So it definitely is a real thing from just use, and this does overcome that. And for 20 quid to be able to bring it back to like near perfect or perfect condition, it's a small price to pay.
Yeah, very much is a small price to pay. I think it's definitely worth thinking of that when you are making it your day-to-day controller. For me, it's not worth it, because DualSense does the job for day-to-day games, casual games. But even then, like slight stick drift in a story game, it might bother you, but it's not too detrimental. Whereas competitive FPS games, Call of Duty, anything you're playing competitively, that's where you really don't want stick drift, and that's why this controller will technically never get stick drift. Sure, it will. Pop it open, fixed. That is literally all it is. And although it is 20 quid, and I don't think stick drift is as big a problem as people make it out to be on the DualSense. It really isn't, especially not on the newer controllers. I think maybe it was. Joy-Cons, yeah, abysmal. DualSense, completely fine. If you get stick drift, you got unlucky. I don't think it's a common thing. It's just something that was like widely spread a while ago. I don't think it's massive anymore. I think with DualSense Edge, those analogs will last you a long time. And if they do need replacing, 20 quid. It's really not that deep. A button going, way worse. Way worse. But I think it's fine. The one thing I haven't mentioned actually yet is these little switches on the back, which I can pop this down all the way. If I put it down a bit, pop it down halfway. If I pop it down further, it only goes a little bit. And that is to help you shoot faster in Call of Duty or FPS games. I hate it.
Really?
Hate it. It just doesn't feel natural. And you don't get that adaptive trigger feel, which is in this controller. You do get adaptive triggers, but obviously not if you use those modes. And it's just the beauty of Call of Duty at the minute is those haptics and adaptive triggers. And it's just a big thing you're missing out on. For a competitive aspect, yeah, they're obviously an advantage, and it's good. You're shooting faster than you would be otherwise, which will win you fights. But it doesn't feel natural to me. That's the one thing about this controller I haven't been able to get used to, and I keep switching off whenever I try to use it, because I just do not like how it feels. But that is probably the one thing about this controller where I'm not finding any use.
I suppose the final thing to round this out, if you are looking to take gaming to the next level, to be able to have extra options that weren't possible before, or you'd have to hold it in a very unorthodox way to be able to do those options, you now are able to do those. You're able to get it so that you can turn off all the bells and whistles and have a controller that gives you as many advantages as you can possibly deliver on. Or if you are a casual player and you just want to have that premium feel and that ability to be able to customize it with the audio mixing and your individual button layout, you've got that at your fingertips too. So I think there is something here for a niche market who does want to be able to have every single advantage they possibly can. And for me, this handset is a cert for anyone who plays their PlayStation a lot. I think there's something there for you regardless of which side of the camp you're on.
Okay, Spence, so you've taken us through all the benefits of the DualSense Edge, as well as some slight negatives that maybe might be more personal to you. But I think you've convinced both me and Davey that this is going on our wish list, maybe for Christmas. We'll have to see if Santa is going to be generous when he comes round with his big bulging sack. But for the final question, Spencer, I want to ask you, is the DualSense Edge worth the money?
Okay, so this is a very individual specific question, because for me, no, but I wanted it anyway. So for me, it was. There's people that play games a lot more competitively than I do. I'm still a casual gamer, more or not. But I liked the controller. I like owning Sony stuff. For me, it was 200 quid, and it's 200 quid well spent. I'm happy with it. I'm going to continue to use it. I don't regret it at all. But I can understand why others are hesitant to buy it. And I'm not going to say it would give you the advantage you need. It will definitely not up your game to a level worth £200. I think it's better than spending 200 quid on a coach for a game. That advice, I think this controller would probably do you better. Because 200 quid is what, like 4 lessons of coaching on most competitive games. I think this will probably is something you have for life. And I would definitely say it's more of an essential purchase, like you boys said, for the day-to-day. Where if you are experiencing stick drift often, this is something you really should consider buying. 200 quid is a big ask, sure, I understand that. But realistically, if you're getting stick drift all the time, 20 quid a pop every time it happens is a lot cheaper than 70 quid a pop that you need a new controller every time. So I would definitely say it's worth it for specific people, not for everyone. It's definitely still a niche market. But I'm happy with my purchase. I think everyone who's bought one so far typically is as well. I don't think I've seen very many negative reviews of this controller, if any at all. I would say, for me, it probably wasn't. I don't regret the purchase, it probably wasn't. Overall, in terms of the features it provides and the ease of access, the quality of life features it gives you, I would say it is worth the £200. But if you could get it on discount, even better. That's all I could really say. I think it's worth it, but, you know, look for a coupon.